Hi, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing?
Would you send me the revised Article 23 again?
Yeah,
Somehow or other, I was deleting whatever. Thank you.
been there, done that.
Thank you.
Uh,
It was in
right,
a batch of a whole bunch of other stuff.
right after this thing, I'll send it to you. I'm not sure how to do two things at the same time.
Yeah, don't do it now. No problem. Bob, you know what? We should ask John. In fact, I'd like to ask John when he gets on. We wrote up a lot of the recommendations last time. They were ready to go. And then because the warrant got changed and they all got pulled.
Yeah, good point.
But I've been searching for them and they're not in our archive. But John must have them, right?
I would assume he has them. I don't have them. That I know that.
That's what I was. Some of them are reusable, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I would think so. Like a
Yeah.
lot of them.
Yeah. Here, let me get my sound up. Yeah, that's what I was hoping, that we don't have to, reinvent the wheel, as they always say.
Right.
Because I went back, there's a folder in there that says, 21, but that folder's empty. So they're not in there.
Oh. Oh.
John will know.
He'll know. He'll know for sure. He's extremely well organized.
I know.
If nothing else.
I know. Oh, he's other things too.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't mean to pigeonhole him that way, but
I didn't take it that way.
he is. It's an awesome thing. Let me see. I'm not Antonio Barletta. Now, how do I change my name here?
Oh, you're not. Are you coming up that way? Oh, you are coming up that way. You're right.
Yeah, I logged in through the town login, whatever. So I believe I am the host of this meeting now, and I can mute people and all sorts of good things like that.
Oh, cool.
We didn't have that in prior meetings. It seems like a good thing. I don't know whether Tony can log in though.
See in the upper left-hand corner, meeting information, there's a green check mark.
Really?
Yeah.
Right on.
The little badge thing.
Yeah, it's like a little badge with a little check mark on it. I don't suppose that's the little gear that you can make these changes.
Yeah, what's the gear do? Cool. All sorts of things going on here.
What does it do? I'm always afraid to touch things like that.
Wow.
Who knows what could happen?
Exactly. Well, we're recording. Wow.
It's also down where it says stop video, and it's got an up arrow. If you click that, up comes a sign that says video settings.
Jeff, where is your wharf?
What, my what?
That's behind you, your screen. That's not our wharf.
Oh, no, that's Ocean Point up in Booth Bay
Marblehead?
Harbor, Maine.
Oh, where?
Booth Bay Harbor, Maine.
Oh, Booth Bay Harbor.
It was at Ocean Point Inn, which is it's out on in East Booth Bay, to be honest with you. But,
well, I have friends who stay there. It's supposed to be gorgeous.
It is very nice. I love the mackerel fishing. You see the little dock that goes out there?
Yes.
I can go out with my mackerel line and just flip it out, and I got 6 hooks on it, and I can fill up all 6 hooks in one cast.
Oh,
that's
It's
cool.
just a great place to do some fishing and watch the tall ships on May 31st as they go into Booth Bay Harbor.
it looks like there's a schooner out way in the background. Barely
It
visible.
wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, that it's just we fell in love with it. It's nothing. It's nothing great.
Have you been to Booth Bay Gardens?
Oh yeah, yeah. Now that I've got my shots, I'm getting ready to go back up to Booth Bay
Have
Harbor.
you checked it out at Christmas time?
I'll be damned.
Go to Booth Bay Gardens at Christmas time. There is an absolutely amazing light show.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, yeah, like several acres, just they're going completely wacko nuts over.
You know, when we go up there, one of our favorite places just to lunch is if you go across the bridge to Southport Island and you travel down to the end of Southport, there's a little dock that we can just sit out there and
Mm.
eat lobster rolls. Anyway,
Bob, that's oh, the lobster rolls there are awesome.
yeah,
Bob, that's a great idea about Christmas. Because I love those
Christmas time.
fireworks.
I got to take you up on that.
Yeah, stunning.
I thought they rolled up the sidewalks up in Booth Bay, to be honest with you. You know, after
I
Labor
think
Day,
they
it just
do,
shut down.
except for this Christmas display.
Yeah. Now, another place we stay up there is Brown's Wharf. A nice little place.
So, John, are you on now? I see you.
I am. Hello.
Here's the question. We wrote, okay, do you have the recommendations that we wrote up last year and then that got pulled when the warrant was
I do.
condensed? Good, because I was looking for them because I was thinking we could recycle some of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna kind of touch on that because I haven't gone back in and plugged what we had from last year into the current warrant, but I should probably do that. And I was also going to propose a different way of kind of maybe facilitating the process as we go forward. Because originally I thought people should just kind of go in and edit the Word document, but I think that might get a little crazy. So
That's nuts. It makes, yeah. I don't
yeah,
like
so
it.
I have a streamlined idea that I'm happy to hear
Good, good, good,
criticism
good.
of once we start.
Well,
I
I'm really
didn't-
happy to hear that you've got them because I went back and looked at the folder. for
Yeah,
that, and it's empty, that folder. It's the first one. And I was thinking, oh, John has to have them.
yeah, I think that's the other thing that I realize is that the folder hierarchy, there's a lot of folders and it's not always intuitive of where things are. So it might have been there, but it just wasn't probably in the folder you looked at.
Oh,
But
okay.
we'll figure it out.
Great. That's what I wanted to hear you say. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, you got a fancy background now.
Oh, I've learned how to do it.
Yeah.
So this is, I was just telling Barbara, this is East Booth Bay,
Oh, okay.
at the Ocean Point Inn up there.
Oh, very nice.
Low tide is, as I look at it.
Yeah, it's a pretty steep ramp there, I see.
We had an incredibly low tide yesterday. You must have seen it.
I noticed that.
Oh, I mean, it was further out, I think, than I've almost ever seen it.
Wow.
It was wild. Our cove was just,
And on the other side of that, the Ever Given was floated. Thank the Lord.
yes.
That's the best time to go out and get sand dollars off the beach.
Mm.
Low tide.
Ooh, that's
Whoa,
pretty.
that is nice.
Oh, is that
That's
Christmas at Booth Bay?
that's Christmas. That's like a fraction of the Christmas thing at the Booth Bay Gardens.
Beautiful.
That is spectacular.
Worth a trip. Because that's a trip.
It's a trip, is right.
Oh,
Very nice indeed.
Okay, enough. Do we have a quorum?
I think we have a quorum. I think we're only missing Judy.
Judy and Dana.
And
Oh,
Dana.
Dana, sorry, yeah.
Okay, so it is, what time is it? 7:05. We have a quorum of the Finance and Advisory Committee. So it's Bob Vanderslice. I'm just reading in the order they show up in Zoom. Barbara Beatty, DeWitt Brown, John Fogum. Oh, Julie Tarmy is here. We're joined by Allison Paddock, a number I don't recognize, Ken Carangelo, Jeff Lewis of the Finance Committee. And that's it, I think. So
Yes.
let's deal with kind of thing number one here. I posted, I just make air quotes around that word, and Judy Zahora has joined us as well. There's so many J's on it. It makes it easy to send group emails, but I asked the clerk to post a meeting for this coming Thursday with the CPC. And I got an acknowledgement back that it had indeed been posted, but when I went to the community calendar a few moments ago, it's not posted. So.
The CPC was talking about it. I went to the CPC meeting yesterday and sat in on it, and they're all psyched for coming. I mean, they've got the link to the meeting and everything.
I know, unfortunately, though, I mean.
Bob, if it's posted on the board in town hall, isn't that the kind of default criteria for being posted?
I don't know. That's what, I mean, I don't know. So I guess the point of all that was there is a chance that we are not properly posted for Thursday.
I think that if it's posted, as John said, on the board in front of town hall, that's sufficient, but I'm not absolutely sure.
You know, it's not ideal, but we're just running out of time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, again, if it's posted on the board, I think we should take that as posted, knowing that it's not ideal.
Right. So, I mean, you can see there's Thursday.
Yeah, I'd go with it, Bob. And
All right. So, yeah, so we're going to go with it, and unless we hear otherwise, I just wanted to give everybody a bit of a heads up that it may be canceled or postponed.
Okay. I can't remember. Have we started the meeting? We started the
Yes.
meeting? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes.
The other thing, I guess, along the lines of discussing the timeline, I reached out to the printers, Sterling printers, who we've used recently to kind of print the book, just to double check the timelines and lead times that they need to print the book and mail it in time. I haven't heard back from them, but I will confirm that when we next meet. You know, again, it has to be mailed to the voters 7 days before the May 15th meeting. And so then we just have to back up from there. How long does the printer need to actually complete the document and then mail it? I think for last September's meeting, they needed roughly 10 days. So I don't want to say that we have more time than I think we had on our schedule, everything needed to be done by roughly the next week.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's obviously given where we are, especially if by chance we aren't able to meet with the CPC on Thursday, that's ambitious, but I just have a gut instinct that we have a little more time than the original kind of deadline we set, but I'll confirm that next meeting.
And just Ken Carangelo sent a chat message that says the April 1st, the Thursday meeting is actually I guess the notice that got posted for this evening, which doesn't help us, unfortunately, but might solve some of the mystery.
Say that again. I'm not understanding. This is the PDF that was linked to today's date?
I think that's what he's saying. Why can't I open this?
Oh,
Yes, this is Ken. When you
Okay.
click on today's meeting, you get the April 1st agenda.
okay. And there's no,
Well, okay.
When you
April
go to the
Fools, everyone.
website, I see it on the website when you go to meetings and then under advisory and finance committee, it's posted there.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
Good. 2 out of
For April
3.
1st.
All right, so maybe it's just the community calendar that's wrong. All right, so we will confirm, but there is still some possibility that we're not properly posted. But it's looking increasingly likely
That we're
That-
okay.
There we are.
that we're okay, yeah. And I think that is the real Antonio Barletta that just joined us.
Oh, me.
All right, John,
Yeah, so we had the assessor on the books again. And she confirmed, I thought last week that they would be here, but then when I asked again for follow-up early this week, she never got back to me. And then I noticed on the calendar that there's an assessors meeting that started at 6:30. So I don't know what to say. I guess we'll just see what happens. One of the main reasons we wanted to talk to her is to kind of pick her brain on the Article 32, the senior deferred taxes article. Other than that, we would have her recap her budget and her budget in the context of her needs. But I don't believe it was significantly different than what the selectman / Tony presented us. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see if she comes through at a future meeting.
okay,
And then, we had our kind of standard general business on the agenda. We had an update or input from Tony if he has anything he wants to throw in. And then we can just start moving through the unfinished articles, if that sounds okay.
yep.
Do you have anything, Tony?
I can go through the email I sent you guys on the latest changes that we sent over.
Are those the ones?
For those of you that don't know, I'm COVID positive, so I'm in quarantine
Oh,
Tony.
with my son Rocco, who also tested positive. And so it's just me and him. So I'm kind of doing a couple different things.
Oh,
Oh,
Tony, I'm sorry to hear. Dang.
Not, it's,
and Rocco tested positive also?
yeah, I think I gave it to him.
How old is he? He's little.
He's 2.
Crap.
Oh, so sorry.
The good news is my wife Laura, who's 37 weeks pregnant, did not test positive, so that's good. So we
Good.
sent her away. So it's been a madhouse this week.
Understandably.
But I wanted to sign on just in case you guys had any questions on some of the stuff that we sent over.
how are you doing though? How are you?
Yeah.
How do you feel?
It put me down for 2 days solid, and then now it's like, every day it's like it's just this lingering. Every 4 hours or so you feel like so tired that you just got to sit down and catch your breath. It's I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It's luckily I haven't lost taste or smell. That would have, as an Italian guy, that would have killed me.
Tony, you went on an entire year. You made it an entire year with
know.
this.
I know. It's my fault. I went out to dinner with a couple friends that I hadn't seen in a while, and that's all it takes. You sit down at a table with people that are outside of your typical bubble,
Yep.
and that's all it took. So,
Yep.
but I appreciate it. Thank you guys. It's of course it's inevitable. The good thing is that we had zero, no transmission at the town hall. So, everything that we're doing there is
Right.
is, is right. And a lot of our folks, at the town hall were able to get vaccinated. Actually, I was scheduled to get my vaccine on Monday. So that's how it goes.
How's Rocco doing?
He's good. He's a little bit of a runny nose, kind of somewhat unfazed, doesn't sleep all that well, but he doesn't have a fever, which is good. And he's misses his mother for sure. But he's also, I think she's actually, I always thought I was the tough one. But I think she's tougher than me because he's getting away with murder over here this week.
1 week isn't going to kill him. It's fine.
Yeah. So warrant adjustments, we sent over a few changes. So Article 11, this is, we put in an article to spend $75,000 of our retained earnings in our rubbish enterprise account. We have, Allison, what's the balance of the retained earnings if we were to spend this 75,000?
He sent that to us last week, so I can pull it up if you can, Allison. You're probably faster than me. Tony, do you want me to pull up the warrant?
I have it. So if we spend, the proposal is to spend 75,000 on the recycling bins and then 50,000 for the compost site, and that would leave us with a balance in retained earnings of $96,416.
Yeah, all right, so this, this basically is the product of our exploration with the new waste management contract. It provides us some cost savings by having uniform recycling carts. It doesn't change anything on the trash side. These are, 64-gallon heavy duty recycling carts or something that you would see in like Salem or Lynn, similar size and quality. Essentially, we're trying to ease our way into potentially switching completely into uniform barrels. But with uniform barrels on the trash side, you're actually limiting how much people can throw out. So instead of shocking the system, we said, why don't we capture some savings now and just do it on the recycling side? Because I don't think the town's given residents recycling bins in a long time. And the ones that we used to give out, the open air, little bins, we have a big issue with recycling or recyclables blowing all over the street on windy days. So this is kind of a way to accomplish some cost savings in our contract. It also introduces these carts to the residents so that if we want to in the future move over to the trash side as well and capture even more savings, they get used to these barrels. And then the environmental benefits, are tremendous too with limiting pollution and it speeds up the reason we catch some savings is it actually speeds up the process by which the waste management actually goes and collects recyclables. So there's some carbon emissions there with the trucks. And we have the money in retained earnings. And we also are looking at a DEP grant that would give us I think it's like $10 to $15 per bin. So we may not even use all 75,000.
So Kenny, I'm sorry, Tony, you'll be happy to know that we actually added this to our list last week and we talked about it and we've already recommended it. So having your extra insight will help us with our recommendation or write our supporting statement. But Yeah, we've already voted it.
Okay, great. Yeah, on all of these, if you at some point, if you want, extra details for the supporting statements that I can give, just let me know which ones you guys are looking for a little bit of extra on.
Yeah, one of the things that came up when we were discussing this, I think Jeff brought up the fact that the 68 gallon size is pretty significant, so he was just saying it might not be as easy for people to move around, but I was making the point that they're wheeled, so they hopefully they're
The
John,
recycling,
Do they have lids?
yeah, so I made that point because
Okay,
I was at a different town that I lived in for a long time. I was on the waste management committee, which tells you a lot. And they brought in big containers for both trash and recycling, 2 different containers, those great big ones that stand up. And we got a huge amount of flack from anybody and from a lot of from the elder population of the town because they were physically big and they're hard to push and hard to move, and they take up space. So just know that I'm not opposed to them, but I know that we should expect that the people are going to complain because they're heavy.
so there's 3 different sizes, and this is the medium size. The biggest one is like a 96, and that's the one that most towns use for recycling. And it's enormous. It's absurd. So we're going with the 64, and then there's a 32. And we have all 3 actually at the town hall, all 3 sizes, which, we may bring to town meeting as like a display. So we actually talked with Casella, the manufacturer, about purchasing a couple, like 100 or 150 of the 32 gallons, and give that as an option to our senior citizens that, may want a smaller barrel that's a little bit easier to use. The 64s aren't too bad, but the 96, I could absolutely agree and see why that would be, a problem. But we'll have an option to get for people if they want a smaller one. We just don't want to encourage it because we want to encourage the recycling. It actually, the more you put into the recycling, actually, helps out our overall rate. Well, it used to help out a lot more than it does now, but it's still a little bit, it's better to recycle than put it in the trash. So
Dan, I have a question about the break-even point for the 75,000 that's paid for the bins. At what point does like the town kind of break even and get the money back from the trash and recycling to pay for the 75,000?
I'd have to run 2 different scenarios for you. One with obviously the payback's much faster if we end up getting that grant from DEP. But I can do the math for you.
I mean, just for when we write up our comments about that article, I think that would be helpful information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The other question was, I think someone brought up the point, does having that larger recycling reservoir potentially allow us to change the scheduling in terms of, maybe trash gets picked up every week and then recycling every other week to kind of potentially lower the rates with some kind of.
That's when you hit that 96 gallon bin.
Okay.
We could do it. I mean, we could switch to every other, but even with the 64, but we don't know if there's enough,
Okay.
that means people are going to be holding recycling for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
So we were trying to, like I said, we talked, there's a lot of different things you can do. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of different things you can do. And we've been talking about it for 2 years and talked to a lot of other municipalities to see where they're, what type of things how it unfolded in their municipality. We talked to the Northeast coordinator for DEP, and we felt like, you know what, let's go a simpler route here. Our rate isn't that bad. We still pay less than $1 a day. So it's not terrible. And when we looked at the cost saving measures, a lot of people that we talked to, sorry guys, a lot of people we talked to actually said, I'd pay another $40 to be able to throw out as much trash as I could instead of being limited on the trash side. So, this is a way for us to ease into a potential change and see how residents react to these barrels.
Sounds good.
Yeah, keep going. Let's see what's next.
Yeah, before Tony goes, should we ask Jeff and Barbara to read the recommendation that we're proposing for Article 20, whatever it is?
23, I think, isn't it?
20, yeah, 23, I think it, yeah, MWRA borrowing.
Mhm.
Actually, John, you have that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, John, I got a screen in front of me, but if you're gonna ask me to do something more than that, I'm not sure I know how to.
So
I can find it if you can't, John.
It was your revision, the fun
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, the one with the fun debt in it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm still looking for it.
I'll race you.
Yeah. Somewhere on my desktop, there's just about 100 things on there.
Randy Meisner, that's not it. Let's see, search for Jeff Lewis, I guess is the easiest way.
I found it. I just have to now remind myself how to. Oh, somehow I've lost my Zoom window. Okay. You see it?
I've lost my Zoom window too now.
You guys see the text in front of you?
Yes.
All right, so this is what
Yes.
you're talking about, Bob?
Yep.
And this is the one we have to fix. We have to add a D
Oh, I'm sorry.
for fun.
I gotta find, where is that?
It's a third line up
Right
from the
there.
bottom. And there you go.
All right.
There you go. I wish we could keep it fun, but
I like it the way it was better.
Yeah,
yes, so do I.
It too. Let's,
so Bob, you just want to go through this just because it was kind of fresh in your mind, or
well,
I just-
no, I mean, it,
Yeah.
you know, it's something that kind of affects Tony as well. And
Oh, okay, yeah.
at worst, it's a courtesy to Tony, and
Fair-
at
fair
best,
point. You're right.
you should have some input onto this one. Do you want me to read it, Tony? Or are you on this?
I'm reading it right now.
Okay.
So first thing, and Allison, if you're still on, might chime in here. I know her and Jeff had a lot of conversation. First thing I would say is the MWRA borrowing may not be paid back through the debt shift. I want to confirm with her on that. However, the conversation in here about debt shift is accurate.
No, we do include it as part of the debt shift, Tony.
We do? We do?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Treasurer makes fair tribute.
I guess I don't understand what is meant by water and sewer capacity fees as opposed to water rates.
It may not be the right terminology. I've been doing a ton of reading between EPA, MWRA, all throughout, and there's a bunch of different words that they use for different things, but it's basically it's debt service. The latest one that I read was by the town of Cohasset. And I think I sent one, Tony, you've been sick, so you haven't read it, but I sent you a copy of one from Long Meadow that was also facing the same situation. And each town used a different terminology. It's basically, it's debt service over the past in a fee as opposed to a rate. In the town of Cohasset, their fee is $187 per resident per quarter, per user per quarter, going down to $170 per quarter for the same thing. But they're dealing with a $44 million debt service as opposed to ours. But they must have larger population. It's the only thing I can figure.
So it's an additional fee on top of the water and sewer rates.
Well, yeah, if you
Okay.
think of, if you think of it, it has nothing to do with the running, which is exactly the way we're doing it now, which is, we're doing 100% funding of the operating expenses, and only the debt shift is being shifted over to the property tax side. So by doing that, the property tax side, which is about 1,700, I have no idea what the exact number is. I'm trying to get it divvied up over a larger number of perhaps 3,500 to 4,000 users in the form of me. I tend to go all the way, a one-time, once a year cost for paying back the debt. Other towns do it on a quarterly basis. So you have your rates, but then you have your fees. And I know that Tony and I were talking about looking at fees going forward. So this is just another one of the fees. This one happens to be the big elephant in the room. But
Yeah, but maybe we can clean up that sentence a bit. I mean, basically, what are we saying? We're saying we want to move it from the general fund being funded through real estate tax revenue to
preferably without
the
affecting our
enterprise
rates.
fund, where it will be funded through water rates, and whether those are, kind of leave it open as to how those actually get calculated and charged, but just keep it simple and say we want to move forward towards paying for the debt.
So I thought, Jeff, I thought our conversation, we ended with the understanding that it didn't make sense to move it over to water sewer, because our water sewer rates are extraordinarily high, where our tax rates extraordinarily low. And it didn't seem to benefit the resident to create such another, we have a 30 to 50% increase coming down the line on the sewer side because of everything that's going on over at Linwater Sewer and Gorelick Farm shutting down. So my understanding when we left off our conversation was that the way that we're doing it, taking advantage of a legal authority that is, allows for towns to take on these large capital expenses without having tremendous water sewer rates, was the right way to go. So I don't know I just don't know if, I guess I don't agree with the recommendation, but you guys are welcome to have, whatever recommendation you might want to consider, but it maybe loosen it up, because you're going to see a huge increase in not a huge increase, but we're going to see a big increase in our assessment, which then trickles down to the rates. And then this summer, we're going to talk about potentially doing a tiered rate structure. So maybe, I don't know if if this article is the one to, open this door, open this conversation. I don't know if this is the time to do it. But, Jeff, you recall our conversation. Do you?
I do.
Am I saying the right thing, or do I remember it differently?
Yes, and when we talked, but I went back and I kept on doing the math in my head. And to have 1,700 people take care of 800,000 a year, and that number is more than likely going to go up to about what your projection showed, $1.3 million over the next few years of debt service, to be divided over 1,700 people, when it could and would be more equitable to divide it up over, at a minimum, 3,500 people and possibly 4,000 people. But what I was looking for was a precedent of, this is all new. And I'm saying, well, it's not really a rate increase. The one thing that's causing this cost is the debt to fund, to keep the infrastructure sound. So the equitable piece is, well, it's the people who gain the benefit by having that, that service in good condition, should share in the cost of doing that. So I'm trying to divide up the current $800,000 cost over 3,500 to 4,000 people versus 1,700 people. That's the only way I can, express my case.
I guess I would challenge those numbers, because you're still 1,700 water bills. There's still 1,700 sewer bills, and they're going to 1,700 houses. There may be, I see what you're saying, because you're doing it on consumption based, and you have more than one person in the house, but it's not every person in the house gets a bill. So it's still per household.
But the bills are calculated based on consumption rather than,
Yep.
it kind of in the same way that a real estate tax bill is based on assessed value. There's a lot closer tie between consumption and water and sewer capital costs than there is assessed value in water and sewer capital costs.
Ask a question just so that I can understand. How many water ratepayers are in town? Is it 1,700?
It's the same. Yeah. I mean, well, it's going to be the same. It's going to be close to the same as many, tax bills that are going out. Now, there's obviously a couple properties in town that are nonprofit and don't get hit with a tax bill, but it's not the difference between 1,700 and
3,500.
3,500.
Right. Okay. I didn't understand where the 3,500 was coming from.
That's all I'm saying is it kind of paints a picture of this huge difference. Like, we're missing this huge portion of the population by shifting it, and you're not.
An example, I hate to pick on Northeastern, but what's their current occupancy?
114.
It's 114 people, but there's only one customer.
Sure.
And if this is a fixed rate, I don't care if you want to add it on to the rate. It's just going to make the rate distorted. Whereas since this is based on covering the cost, the debt service of just delivering, it's a base fee, if you will, based on, well, they've got 117 to 125 people there. They should have 117 divided by 3,500 then.
Yeah, I see where you're going, but I think to capture those people, you're hurting everyone else. You know what I mean?
But I did the math, and it actually, if I did how much my property taxes, or how much of my bill each year in property taxes would go down by taking that debt shift off of it, it's a substantial chunk of change. And if you've got the larger users in the town picking up more share, in essence, you're going to shift it away from the home to the larger users.
Yeah, I mean, in the big picture, this is both revenue and cost neutral. All you're doing is moving a cost from the general fund into the water and sewer enterprise fund.
Yeah, but
To Jeff's point, they are calculated differently. One is
But when
calculated
you're
on
thinking
assessed
about-
value, one's calculated on consumption.
But when you think about impact to the resident, your utility bill comes out of your wallet, where your tax bill's coming out of like your mortgage payment, your escrow. It's a little bit different, and it's still the same wallet, right? Still come out of the same bank account. But that utility bill, if it's like for instance, we just went through with COVID, right? All of a sudden your consumption's going through the roof and you have a, significantly higher utility bill that comes only, it's just a little bit of a different hit to the rate pay to the resident, I guess. But listen, it's a healthy conversation. I guess my point is it's a pretty technical conversation for this article. This is a fairly, I don't know if I would attach it to this MWRA borrowing article. But I'm sorry. But I don't know. That's my thought on it.
Ask Rocco, what does he think?
He just wants to hit me in the face. So I guess he's telling me to shut up. I don't know.
I think it's a redistribution of revenues to a more appropriate, more appropriate buckets with more appropriate labels on the buckets. That's my opinion.
I guess I don't disagree with that at all. I completely agree with that. This authority was put into law so that municipalities, could invest in large capital infrastructure projects without, having to do, a 2.5 override or drastically increase enterprise rates. So it gives you the ability to soften the blow. But yeah, it does shift it away from a more accurate place, and then you're missing people who don't pay real estate
Shifts
taxes,
it
so,
to a more accurate place.
yeah. But okay,
It softens the blow though, either. You still end up paying. And it's just,
Still pay the same amount, but it goes in from different pockets to different pockets that are more appropriately labeled, in my opinion.
well, I don't know if it's the same dollar amount. I don't know if you're paying the same exact dollar amount.
Well, if NEU gets a bigger bill because they have 145 people, it would be less for you.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know if it's the same amount though. Because you're doing whether it's a tax rate based on your property value versus how much water you use. You know what I mean? So I just don't know if the numbers end up being the same when you shift it one way or the other.
Yeah, for an individual taxpayer, the numbers are probably going to be different.
Right.
Different meaning whether you pay it out of real estate taxes or pay it out of the
Right.
water.
No, it'll be the same for the town.
Right.
But
Big
for
picture.
the individual, I don't know what that impact would be.
Yeah, and I think Jeff's point, and I tend to agree with him, and I think DeWitt kind of agrees as well, is that it seems more appropriate or more equitable to base billings for water on consumption
Of water.
than on assessed value?
We also, another part of this too is, again, this is a long conversation, but we don't have to shift everything over. As far as like the MWRA borrowing, we don't have to shift that over. We could keep that in the water enterprise. The $4 million that we authorized last town meeting, we could shift only 2 million over, so you don't have to shift everything over. You can make
Oh,
that,
no, wait, all right, so no,
have
wait,
that flexibility too.
this is a learning for me. So it's discretionary?
Yeah. And it's a Board of Selectmen decision. It's not even a town meeting decision.
Interesting.
I also just want to say, I agree with Tony's point that having this recommendation as part of the MWRA article might not make sense when you're actually voting on the debt as part of the water and sewer enterprise article.
I would like to take a picture. That's a good looking cat. Yeah. Yeah, I have a game I like to play with all my new friends.
Say that again, Allison.
So for when you, what article do you vote on for the water and sewer enterprise funding? What number is that?
Gonna be like 8, 9, 10, somewhere over there.
Yeah, and so when you vote on that article in the motion, you're voting on salaries, operating budget, and then debt. So that might be the
That might be the better
bring
place to
this
put it.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I can, I'm not sure, I'm not the most eloquent person, but I've done a ton of reading. And from what I can gather, in 1993, they passed that exclusion which created the debt exclusion. And the reason, the reasoning they gave at the time was to avoid the Prop 2.5 battle, because towns are faced with the problem of rising costs of sewer repairs and cleanup. And then after that, they shifted to the enterprise fund, and they gave the exact same argument going in the other direction, that that water and sewer infrastructure is like the police department, that whether you use them at all, if you never make a call to the police department, you still got to pay for them to be there because they're providing a service if you need it.
Yep.
And that's the water and sewer infrastructure is this, in our case, it's a multi-million, in Cohasset's a $45 million. Boston's was mega, Longmeadow was mega, but it's a huge problem. And the more I read, the more and more towns, how do you come up with a way of shifting it to the appropriate people, but giving them a light at the end of the tunnel? The debt exclusion says, to me, I'm a taxpayer, I say, wow, once this debt's paid off, this goes away. My taxes are going to go down. So that's my light at the end of the tunnel, even though it doesn't look like that's going to happen because, things keep breaking and we still got to fix them. This is, by putting this as a separate fee, it's the same. Well, there's a fixed cost called debt service, it's infrastructure, capacity, come up with whatever that name is. It just seems an equitable spot for it to go. But, I'm only one member. And I joined the committee because if you wanted somebody to give advice, you don't have to take it. But, I just think it'd be more equitable for the payers. And from an accounting standpoint, it would be acknowledging the fact that running a water and a sewer department is expensive and it's not going away. I think it's really, a $3 million a year instead of a $2 million a year.
Yeah, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
How much do you think that the water and sewer rates would go up by doing this? And how much would you expect the property taxes to go down? I don't really see that happening, the property taxes going down.
The simple answer is this year's debt exclusion is $811,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, Allison. If in a perfect world, your tax rate, your debt exclusion would go down by $811,000 in property taxes across whoever the payers are of that property taxes, but the sewer costs, revenues would go up by $811,000. It's just whether it would be the Lewis household, would I get lucky and it would go down by, I don't know, $400 or $500 or $600, but it would go up by, rough numbers are $200 per head. If you were to take, $1.5 million and divide it by 4,000, you come up with an amount. And you say, well, that's an additional cost per year. And I think the math was $200. So it would, my water and sewer bill would go up by $400 a year, and my property taxes would go down by, well, I don't know. I haven't done the math on my property tax side.
Yeah, but just to be clear here for a second, there are two different questions that we're talking about simultaneously. Question one is, where should the capital costs be? Where should they be charged? Out of the general fund, i.e. in real estate taxes, or as water and sewer rates? So that's question one. Question two. Yeah, question two is, assuming they were on the water and sewer side, how should they be charged? What's the equitable way to charge them? Is it per household? Is it per consumption, or is it something else?
Right. And I admittedly didn't get down into the detail of, well, do you add it, increase it to the rate? Well, you could do that. It's a simple adjustment, but then all of a sudden your rates, I'm trying to avoid increasing the rates, water rates, because it's a debt service fee. They call it an administrative fee that you're charging rate users. So it wouldn't affect the actual water rates. But if that's the way that you feel more comfortable going, it's semantics with me. I noticed that when you do billing in water and sewer, you have administrative fees, you get all kinds of different fees. Some of them are counted as high water rates and others are not counted in the water rates.
So the way we left our conversation was that, both of those questions are worth exploring, and but they're on the revenue side, not on the expenditure side. So they're not things that are going to be voted on at town meeting this year, or any year, right? But it's something that I think the FinCom, myself, the FinCom, and the Board of Selectmen, after town meeting, it's something that the Board of Selectmen decide on. They vote before the start of the next fiscal year. So between May and June 30th, the FinCom, the Board of Selectmen, and myself and Allison can continue to discuss, what's the best way to handle this revenue issue. And in light of that, maybe it makes sense to include it as like a paragraph in your opening letter instead of including it in an article, because the article doesn't have to do with revenue, right? It doesn't have to do with how is it going to be generated. It has to do with authorization to borrow, to spend. Just a thought. If you, with everything else that's on your plates this year, if you wanted to maybe move this comment about further exploration on that to the opening letter, it might be better suited there. I love this stuff. This is like, it's a nerdy conversation, but it's definitely worth going through it. It just may not make sense to bog down town meeting with it.
Okay, so
And I think Tony's got a point, right? As many things that's going to be hit us at town meeting I think it's certainly something we need to discuss going forward, but probably not now.
I agree, Judy. I think that this is too complicated for, seeing as we're not going to be actually changing it for next year. I think this is too complicated and could require, I mean, here we are talking about it now at length, at a meeting at which we're going to have lots of other things we need to talk about. So Jeff, I think this is very important, but maybe we put some kind of, as Tony's suggesting, put some kind of reference to it in our opening letter, but not have it be something that people vote on here or under. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I'm open to everything.
yeah,
So-
I would agree. I think we should either move this to the enterprise fund article or move it to the letter.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that, Allison's point and maybe Tony's point as well, of maybe this isn't the right place to express this sentiment, at least in with this article, but moving it to the enterprise article, I think tacking it on there, I can't foresee it being, maybe we have to simplify the language a little bit. We'll have another round of offline kind of conversation about what the edits should be to simplify it. And I think a simplified version of these paragraphs in the more appropriate article, I don't think that would bog things down. And I think we also have the opportunity to address it, as Tony said, and as I think we've collectively discussed in our letter as well. So I don't know. I think maybe we are getting a little too deep into the weeds. It's all very good conversation, but I don't think we're going to break the meeting by adding some of this commentary into the enterprise fund article. That's just my thought.
It doesn't require a vote. It's more just a heads up town. This is
right.
A change that's likely coming.
Yeah. And we can temper the language to communicate that a little more clearly, maybe. So everybody think we're okay to move on?
I'm fine.
Okay. I have to remember where we were going. Oh, we were going through
the spreadsheet.
Yeah, we're going through the warrant where Tony was pointing out changes. So let's go. All right, so. Okay, so we talked about Article 11. We stopped on Article 23. That's a blue line, Tony. And in Article 25, it looks like just, was a distance changed?
This article changes the distance from 300 to 600. The blue line is an edit that we just added in there. Prior to, it said 300, a minimum of 300 yards off the shore.
Okay.
So we changed it from the mean low water line, which is a more standard, form of measurement when dealing with the shoreline.
Got it.
Real estate jargon.
Yeah.
I need to ask a question about that. Would this apply to the duck hunting?
That's what it applies to.
Yes. So here's my question. Is there a state law on this?
No.
Okay.
The key to this article is that it's not specific to hunting. That would be challenged by the Attorney General. It's specific to public safety. And where we have a lot of shoreline activity, which happens year round. You can see, every day you drive into town, you have people kiteboarding, right in within the coast. We're just trying to provide, safe environment for that.
No, I think that's good. I just wondered whether there was any state law that pertains. Apparently not.
I don't know. You would think there would be though, wouldn't you?
That's
I'm
why I'm
sorry,
asking.
Barbara, it was there state law on what? How
Is there
close you
any
can be
state
to
law
the,
that pertains to how this distance gets set, regulated,
yeah,
enforced?
as far as hunting goes, the state law is you can't be within X amount of feet of a household or a roadway.
Right.
So our bylaws are actually go further than that just by way of being 300 feet from the, currently it says 300 feet off the shore, which is, going to be farther than, I think I want to say it's maybe 500 feet from a house or something like that. So this would make it further away. So there is rules about how close you can be to a house or a roadway when hunting, but they're not specific to coastline.
And there are no other state rules about coastline, distancing and et cetera. That's
No, I
something
mean,
towns can do.
no, not specific for hunting. I mean, honestly, it's the opposite, right? There's a lot of protections for hunting in those areas. That's in the mean low tide watermark, fishing, fouling, those are like original rights that, are heavily protected. So
Just for the record, I quote, discharge of any firearm or release of any arrow upon or across a state or hard surfaced highways or within 150 feet of any such highway. These are things that are prohibited. And the next one is possession of a loaded firearm, discharge of a firearm, or hunting on the land of another within 500 feet of any dwelling or building in use unless permitted by the owner or occupant. So it's 150 feet of a highway and 500 feet of a building.
And there's no mention of anything about shore.
I have
no,
seen it yet.
no, there isn't.
Well, you
Okay.
can't hunt on a Sunday. I never knew that.
Oh, yeah, that's,
I'd like to make a comment on this one.
thank you.
Barbara, if you're done.
Thank you.
That this isn't really going to make much difference to the people that want to hunt, and they use shotguns anyway. So a shotgun's not going to go any further than 100 feet, and the sound of the shots will be pretty similar, I think, between 600 yards and 300 yards offshore. So I mean, I'm for the amendment. But I don't think we need to get too excited about it one way or the other. This isn't going to make sense.
I'm in favor of it. All I wanted to do was to check and see whether there might be some kind of state regulation that we needed to also know about. No, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, I mean, I support it too, but it's like, I don't think it's going to affect the hunters, and the people that hear the guns going off in the morning, for people shooting ducks are going to still hear it. So there you have it.
Okay.
John, we had there was a working draft in there. I thought that I started to put some words in. Is that not what we're doing?
A working draft of the recommendation
Of the warrant article, right? So that you can
of,
put the
of,
recommendations
of
in?
number 30.
No, just in general. I mean, I see you're working off of the warrant draft.
So what I thought we were doing now is going through the changes
Oh, okay.
Tony hadn't had a chance to brief us on.
Oh,
So
that's fair. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I was going through that, and then I was assuming we'd go through the remaining unvoted articles as best we can.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily have all the recommendation statements for those yet. but we can talk about that, I guess.
All right,
that make sense?
we'll work on the process. Tony, on this one, we're still waiting legal review?
No, so the Board of Selectmen voted to send the article that I emailed to you guys to the planning board. So any zoning bylaw has to go through a planning board process, and then they actually have a hearing and they present their recommendation at town meeting.
So we don't provide a recommendation on this.
Yeah, I don't think you guys have to.
Okay.
This goes through a planning board process.
Okay,
Or we recommend to take whatever it is the planning board says, or we just don't, we have no recommendation.
I think you could defer to the planning board.
Great. That makes mine easy. Thank you.
37 is just we moved the chapter 90 highway down.
yep,
38, this is the banning plastic bags. I sent you the longer article as well in my email. So this one and the other one, it's pretty common when you have large articles like that, you don't have to put the entire thing into the warrant. So the full article is in a separate document that I sent you guys, but essentially what it does is it bans plastic bags from our local stores. They have to use compostable bags when they're offering them to their consumers.
I have a question. I have a question on that one. This is an article that I'm doing. In looking at it, I wondered about because this one has fines, and the fines go up by the day. And I was wondering about, which means it could really become quite steep. So I was wondering about reporting and enforcement. I don't know if we have to deal with that, but what's the idea? Who would we report to? How would enforcement work?
It would be reporting to our inspection services. So our probably our public health agent would take that on. John Coulon, he has the relationship with the businesses, with the restaurants in town, make sure that they're in compliance with all of our local zoning and whatnot. So, that would probably fall into his category.
What you sent us doesn't specify that. Is that something that needs to be, because that immediately came to mind to me. Who does the reporting? How does it work? What happens?
I'll follow up with legal. Dan Script, worked with, this came to us from a resident, a student resident, who brought it forward to the Board of Selectmen. And the selectmen said that they would include it in the warrant. So it's not sourced by the town, but our legal counsel worked with the student looking at other towns' bylaws, and that's the language they came up with. So I'll have to follow up with him.
Yeah, I'm very much in favor of it. Those were the questions that came to mind.
I'll follow up with him for you.
Okay. But you don't think we need to put any of that in here?
Maybe. I honestly, I didn't have that. I didn't think of that. So let me look at it a little bit closer. I'm sure it wouldn't hurt to have it called out.
Maybe it doesn't need to be there. It just is something that if questions come up at town meeting, I'm going to need to be prepared to say something about those issues, because that's what immediately came to mind to me. So why don't you get more information, and then I just need to be prepared. It may
Yeah.
not need to be something that's specifically in here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you have more questions, Barbara, will you just put them in an email for me?
Sure.
Thank you. So 39 is the result of the conversations we've been having in this meeting regarding Article 40. So we met with Christine. We had a neighborhood meeting this past week. We worked out this article to, improve and be more specific about where the money was coming from and how it would be used. She did have an edit that she sent me after the Board of Selectmen voted. So we'll make a quick edit this Thursday, but it was something, it was fairly simple, where instead of where it says improvements to existing infrastructure of drainage ditches, stormwater pipes, and I think she wrote like existing outfall to Lynn Harbor. Called out the non-operating 18-inch a little bit more specific, which is fine with us. So a little bit of a change are going to be coming, but it's we're okay with it.
Proper use of eminent domain.
What's that?
Eminent domain is for sewer and roads.
Oh, we have an existing easement.
So
No.
where did that, it's the same $100,000. Where did that come from? That number come from?
It's a combination of estimates of cost between the feasibility study, the cost of the emergency stormwater basin we're going to build, and the ditch work that we're going to be doing, somewhat based on the money that we, expended this past winter. But the 100,000 originally came from Christine. That was her number that she put there. But we did some math on what we think it's going to cost to accomplish these three things, and 100,000 is going to be enough to do that.
And again, the meeting with the neighborhood and Christine was characterized it as a success.
Yeah, she wanted a little bit more. I have to follow up with her about the cost. Her concern was that there wasn't going to be enough money left over for the feasibility study. So I reached out to an engineer to give us a cost estimate, and I haven't followed up with her yet, but there is enough money there. And once she gets that email from him, that was her only concern. So she said, if the engineer says it's only going to be like, 30,000 or less for that feasibility study, then it sounds like we have enough money to accomplish all three. So that was her concern. And it sounds
Tony,
like that's going to be the case.
excuse me, Tony, this is Dana Sheehan. Is Article 39 going to have an outfall drainage to Doggy Beach? Is that part of that 100,000?
So there's an existing outfall pipe that goes to Doggy Beach. It doesn't operate right now. It's been shut down. It was cut and a revetment was put up, outside of it. So it literally goes nowhere. The point of the neighborhood, there's a lot of pressure to reopen it. But the permitting of that is going to be very difficult. We're going to have to make a strong case that it's a grandfathered in outfall pipe. And honestly, even that's going to be, they may require us to install certain type of stormwater. I got to go after this, guys. They may require us to do some stormwater.
They require some more planning, I understand.
Filtration stuff, which may bust the budget on the job. So that's why we're doing this feasibility study, to get somebody in that really knows the regulators, the process, the permitting, and tell us, exactly, give us a permittable project and what the timeline and the cost of that would be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Great.
Tony.
Thank you, Tony. Feel better.
Good
Yeah.
night. Good
Good
night,
night,
Guys,
Rocco.
if you guys have more questions, just shoot me an email. I log on usually around 2 when he goes down for a nap, so I'm more than happy. I know where clock's ticking. Real quick, do you guys know when you're getting CPC articles?
We're meeting them on Thursday.
You're meeting them on Thursday.
God willing, and the creek don't rise.
Okay.
And I don't know if you were here, Tony, I put a call into Sterling Printing just to double check their timelines and lead time. They haven't gotten back to me yet, but I'm at least getting on that.
Okay. All right.
Tony, I hope you and Rocco both feel better soon.
Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Hey, John, this is Dana. I don't know if it's a good time for this or not, but can we just for a couple minutes go back to the compost area article?
Sure, you want me to pull it back up?
Yeah, please. I have an update for everybody.
Yeah, sorry. Let me,
I'll make it quick.
I closed the document. Do you remember what article it is?
10
Oh,
maybe.
there, okay, yep.
So just for the group, after we talked to Zach about the compost area several weeks ago, we put out there that maybe we require a resident sticker, or parking sticker, or beach sticker, whichever you want to call it, to use that. And so he went ahead and put up a sign. So he's already implemented our suggestion. And the only thing that needs to happen, I guess, at this point is to find a way or formula to divide up the revenues from parking stickers and apply it to the compost area, the operational cost of the compost area. Does that make sense to anybody?
And I don't know that we need to do that, right? But what the first thing we wanted to do is make certain that only the residents in Nahant were using it. So that was something we were not sure of. I think that I can't believe that, he was able to implement that so quickly. That's terrific.
Yeah, I agree with that, Judy, as well. I don't think it's going to be a burden to anybody. I don't think.
So it's the parking sticker, the beach, excuse me.
Yes, the annual sticker. And if you go down to the compost area you'll see it. It's a big green sign. It just if we can find a way or a formula, I don't know if we're going to resolve it right now, but a way of dividing up the revenue from the beach stickers, which goes to the recreation fund. Some of it needs to go to the rubbish enterprise or to pay for the compost area.
I don't know that we thought we were going to do that because it's not an additional revenue source. But what it does stop, again, it stops people from Nahant who are not from Nahant from using it. So I don't know that we want to do that to break the revenue up, because otherwise we don't have anything for the recreational fund.
The way I understood it is that, this is kind of the first volley, like we convince the town that you need to have the parking sticker to use either a beach parking lot or the dump, which it sounds like, Zach is already full steam ahead in implementing that. And then I think the next piece of the puzzle that I don't think will happen in the context of the town meeting that's upcoming, but in the next year, when the selectmen go back to their kind of fee schedule assessment, maybe, I don't remember, what is a parking sticker cost now, $10?
$10 a year.
$10, so maybe it goes to 20. And then, that extra 10 goes to the compost area maintenance, or maybe it's 50. I don't know what the number is, whatever an escalation of a more appropriate fee to cover that cost is implemented could be connected to the cost of the now compost sticker. And in that case, we wouldn't necessarily be pulling money from recreation that they aren't already getting. Does that make sense? So to me, it's like that comes next, but we won't deal with that now.
And we might also see some, some more sticker revenue coming in. Could be tied to the compost area, could be
Yeah.
tied to whatever.
Yeah.
But some equitable way to have some funding flow to the rubbish enterprise for those stickers. And that's all I had to say about
That's
that.
all?
And I don't know if that means any change to this article or not.
So I did reach out to Tony. That's one thing I didn't, per your suggestion, Dana, to actually recommend that the selectmen add that wording to the text of the article itself. He never replied to me either way, but I did send him the email, so I guess we can follow up with him offline.
Yeah, it looks like it's status quo ante, it's fine.
Okay.
Who is writing the recommendation on this one? Maybe they just want to include a sentence or two.
I am, and I did include that in the response.
Yeah. Okay. So what I was going to do quickly is pull up.
Yes.
Okay, so that's where we are, right? So I'm proposing that we just we don't have this, again, the ones in pink, 4, 6, 20, 21, and 22. I don't think we obviously can't deal with the CPC. I don't think we want to deal with East Point tonight. Coast Guard design, are we ready to vote that?
I actually thought we had, but I thought we had.
My records say that we hadn't voted that.
I mean, we voted to agree to it at the last town meeting.
Right, we did last time.
Right. Yeah.
And so I used the same language, except that back to that warrant draft, I added a couple of points that Dana talked about in my response. So we'll talk about those later, because there was a question I want to ask about that. But I mean, if you want to revote it, that's okay.
Yeah, we didn't vote on it according to my meeting minutes.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Said
make a
need to look at
motion.
Possible revenue loss if land does not sell.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we take the recommendation of the committee.
Second?
I'd actually, I think I'd like to postpone voting on this until after we meet with the Coast Guard Committee on, is it tomorrow night, Judy?
I mean, we can, Dana, but frankly, they've been working on it for 3 years and we agreed to it in September. I mean, I certainly when we meet with them tomorrow, we'll talk about the slides and we'll talk about questions, any additional questions, but the committee is not going to do any more work.
I agree with Judy.
So I need a second.
Oh, it was seconded. John seconded it.
No, I didn't second it.
I'll
Oh.
second it.
I thought you did.
I don't think I did. Did I?
I didn't hear a second.
The nights run long, who knows?
Right, maybe I'm,
Brown, second.
there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, further discussion?
I would just like to say, I'd like to postpone the vote, but I support in concept what they're trying to do, but I just feel like there isn't any discussion about what to do with the proceeds of the sales and how it should be prioritized. So for those reasons, I'd like to kind of talk to the Coast Guard Committee one more time before we go ahead and vote on this.
Didn't
Remember,
we,
Dana, that's outside the scope of the committee. So in my recommendation, again, on the warrant that I put in, the recommendation, I put in that we put the money first to pay off the bills, and then the second, the two other things. I mean, I'm happy to show you. So I mean, when we talk about what we're going to do, I mean, that's, if you want to do that now, we can. But it's not going to change what the committee will recommend, because they only have a very small purview of what they can recommend.
But
So here,
Judy,
let me,
let me
sure.
ask you about that. So I feel like the comments are helpful, but if it's part of the article, doesn't that make it enforceable and it has to go that way?
No, because no, I mean, we can make a recommendation for it, right? So we recommend, what we'll recommend is that we take the committee's recommendations about what to do with the property, but then thereafter we can recommend, but I don't think so. I don't think it's enforceable because we recommend what they do. It's up to the selectmen what they do.
Yeah,
right,
but I think what Dana is suggesting is that literally the language of the article itself should include
All right, so let me show you something.
stipulations about where the proceeds go and whatever the other issues are.
Can I share my screen for a minute? Do you mind?
Am I misspeaking for you,
No, you
Dana?
got me. You got me, Bob.
All right, so let me just show you what I put in. So this is the this is exact wording from the last time when we agreed to it, the green stuff in green. And so what I added in then is the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends passage of this article, including the disposition of the property as detailed, tear down 12 houses, subdivide into conforming lots, sell 12 lots with restrictions as detailed. The Advisory and Finance Committee further recommends the money from the sales of the properties be allocated as followed. First, pay off the debt principal for Coast Guard loan or equivalent. Pay off the town pay the town back for any costs necessary. Pay off the town for interest on the original Coast Guard debt. And then these two I wanted to discuss more, but I was certainly on board with the first three. But correct me then if I'm wrong. We can say this, but the Board of Selectmen can actually use that money any way they wish.
Well, as part of the legislature, if we added this to the article itself, then it would be enforceable.
Right,
And
but
the town meeting votes for it.
we can't change the article. The article's already in.
No, we can't change the articles.
We can work with the selectmen to change it.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think that we're more pen than that, right? Because this is an article related to the acceptance of the the Coast Guard Design, Development and Advisory Committee. Those things, how we use that money is outside the purview of this committee.
Is the article coming from the Coast Guard Design and Development Committee, or is this a selectman article?
Well, I thought it was a selectman article. Am I wrong?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I mean, if it's a selectman article, they can do with what they want. If it's a Coast Guard Design and Development article, then they are controlling it. They being the Coast Guard Committee.
Well, let me stop sharing. So perhaps the new article is in there. I no longer remember where this article came from. But I did want to tell you that this is what, because I'll, before we do that, can I ask this? Dana, you put in use any remainder of the money to pay down other municipal debt. I don't know about that. And then I also want to discuss, because you put in seed money for a study on elderly housing and affordable housing. And I don't necessarily know that I agree that that's where we should spend the money.
Yeah, I hear that, Judy. That's what I heard from Peter when he came to present to us on this. That's what they're interested in.
Okay, well, I'll ask him about that.
Allison, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
So just,
Yeah, I'm with
just-
you on that. I think those are good ideas.
yeah, I think they're all good ideas. I'm just concerned about. Anyway, Allison, just what happens to these funds? So say the property sells, does this flow into the general fund?
Yes,
Or-
that's my understanding, and that's what I had mentioned at a previous meeting. My understanding is that any sale of municipal property per Mass General, municipal finance law comes into the general fund.
And that's outside of the purview of this committee? Did I hear Tony say that all revenue issues are done after the town meeting?
Correct. Yeah, so it would be
So what to
Board
do
of
with that
Select-
1.8 million that's made at Tony's level?
yeah, it might, I could talk to Tony. He might just have to talk to legal because I've never seen a sale of municipal property. I've never seen proceeds go anywhere else.
So we get to discuss expenses, but not income.
No, we get to discuss income. Absolutely.
Get to, yeah.
I think in general, the fourth point is that we don't want this to go to operating expenses. It needs to be used for,
That's right. I mean, that's really what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much in agreement on all that. It's just a matter of process. Like, how do we make that happen? And if we can at all, but if we ask that this is included in the article, then there's something that the town meeting has voted on as part of the legislature of the town, kind of instructing the Board of Selectmen how to deal with the proceeds versus leaving it up in the air as part of the general fund.
Ken has also added in the comment field, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but does the committee have a position on using any of the funds from the sale of this housing to fund eminent domain related costs? And I mean, to me, that is something that we could.
No, I don't, frankly, I don't think, because there's a couple of things wrong with, what's wrong with this, right? First off, we've got to clear that land and then we got to divide it and then we need to sell it. And there's no saying all that's going to happen at one time. So it's not that the money is going to come in as a $3 million lump. It's
Right.
going to come in dribs and drabs. We have to pay off the debt. I mean, eventually someday there might be surplus come in, but there's a lot that we have to pay down first.
But that's kind of makes the point even more significant that it probably makes sense to at least outline or mandate as best as possible where the money's going to go. Because if it just does come in dribs and drabs, then it could kind of easily potentially find its way other places.
Well, I think we were afraid that it's just going to become operating cash.
Right.
yeah, but maybe our recommendation should make that point though, that, this is not going to come as an immediate multi-million-dollar windfall, but it's going to come in slowly over a period of time.
True, and also the annual income from the property itself will be going down at the same time. So while our net income goes down, we'll have some proceeds that goes out, and if it doesn't go to retire the debt, it could go elsewhere. And the article has nothing to say about it.
So there's a meeting tomorrow night that Dana, you and Judy will be attending.
Yeah, there's a meeting of the Coast Guard Committee to go through their slides one more time. They still want to have a Board of Selectmen's meeting. They're running out of time, frankly, but they go through their slides one more time and take some more questions.
Okay, so I guess one of the things we'd need to do is also, whether at that meeting or on the side, ask Tony whether it's Coast Guard Housing Committee article or a selectman's article? Like who's in charge of it, right? So that's the other thing.
Yeah, we could ask the Coast Guard committee tomorrow night too.
Right.
Find out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the more direct route though is to just go to the selectmen or to Tony or to the Tony and the selectmen and say, look, this is our concern. How do we address this? Are you amenable to amending this article?
Okay.
Well, how would we want to amend it?
Well,
To include these things?
yeah, that's a good question.
Because here's what I'm afraid. I'm afraid that we'll get, if we add this into the article itself, it'll get the scope goes from here to here,
Yeah,
and we won't get an answer. And if we don't get an answer here, in a year and a half now, we have to pay back a, $2 million loan. We have no money.
I mean, yes, agreed. Those are concerns. It's a 0.5% interest rate. And it's not the end of the world if it were refinanced.
It's not the end of the world, but I think it's a very bad fiscal move.
Oh,
The
I'd
houses-
agree. That's the worst case, Judy, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna come to that.
I worry though that it will if we put so much in the article itself that people will get lost in that.
I appreciate that.
yeah. And of those 4 points, I think 1 and 2 are, very commonsensical
Okay.
and should be not controversial. It's 3 and 4 that have some controversy to them.
Actually, I like 3 a lot.
Agreed. That's part of the net income of this whole enterprise.
What does 3 mean though?
There was interest paid on the debt, roughly $700,000 over the last several years that the town has owned the property.
Yeah, but what do we mean by pay off the town? What exactly are we going to do? I mean, the town is going to get $3 million and we can't. Okay, so we're going to carve out $700,000. What are we going to do with it? I mean,
It goes into the general fund either way, right?
yeah. I mean, we
I
are.
mean, that's true.
True. I mean, if you want, that kind of makes an interesting point. It's if we wanted to streamline our messaging, and if that 700 goes to the general fund anyway,
Pull it out.
we could say goodbye to that, and there you have it.
Yeah.
What do you think about 4?
I think there'll be some people who will find 4 positive.
4 is the best idea, period.
Right. I think a lot of people will think 4 is a good reason for voting, even better reason for voting for this.
Yeah, and all this stuff is probably going to happen currently
So,
anyway.
the stuff that's in red is the finance committee's recommendation, correct?
Yes.
So we're not, I know that the Coast Guard Housing Committee was charged with a certain scope that's in green.
Yes.
So the issue that we're dealing with is our recommendation for where the money goes.
Right. And the possibility of taking 1, 2, and 3 there and essentially making them green, if you like that analogy.
And really, it's just a recommendation. The ultimate decision is to be made by town management or council or whatever.
Or the
Yes.
town meeting, Jeff.
Meeting.
Town meeting is part of the article.
Is the town meeting, Allison, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
If we give a recommendation and town meeting votes, yeah, we agree with the recommendation, does that earmark these funds?
No,
No,
no.
no, because Mass General Law would supersede whatever, was done at a town meeting, is my understanding.
And the town meeting is not voting on our recommendation. The town
Correct.
meeting is voting on the article. They are voting on
Correct.
the words in green, not the words in red or black.
How does that take place?
How does what take place?
How does earmarking take place? That's where my ignorance shows up.
Well, that was my question too.
It doesn't, does it?
I'm not sure I understand earmarking for what.
Well, the problem I know I'm encountering is over a period of time, we're going to receive $3 million plus. And there's debt that we would like to earmark the first chunks to go to. But how does that happen? It doesn't happen by us making a recommendation, and the article has a limited scope, not including earmarking. So when does that process take place?
Yeah, that would be something I would have to ask general counsel. Sorry, I have my son too. So I'm not entirely sure. I don't know off the top of my head.
I mean, one way to do it is what we've been talking about, is somehow change the words of the article and include something that said, and the proceeds should go into whatever, and an escrow account to be used for 1, 2, and 3.
I think that this is a committee article. I don't think it's a. I don't know. We'll have to ask Tony.
So this is like a citizen's
Petition,
article, petition.
kinda. I think so.
Well, I think we still have a motion on the table.
Hmm.
So. I'm not sure what are our options.
Well, I'd like to vote on it. I mean, that we could certainly always vote on. We can always talk about the recommendation at a different time, but I guess it won't kill us to vote on it, Thursday for sure. I'm happy then to withdraw my
Or we could vote on it, knowing we could vote on it and still approach the selectmen and see if they're willing and can amend this.
So why don't we what if we just, if
Probably
he
easier to do.
withdraws our motion, then we won't have to revote it and we'll vote it.
we'll get clarity.
Either way. Is that
All right.
okay?
Yep, I withdraw the motion.
Thanks, I support that. And I'm
Thank
not
you.
trying to drag it out. I think, I just want to get an answer on, see if we can find out if this could be part of the article based on whether it's the Coast Guard Committee or the Board of Selectmen.
And also, Dana, I agree with you that it would be a good idea if there could be some kind of recommendation about how the money, profit, whatever you want to call it, would be spent. I mean, I agree with you on that.
I mean, surely I do too. I just know that it's outside the purview of the committee, and absolutely we got to get this done.
That's right. That's the question, Judy. Is this outside of our mandate or not? I think we should try to find out.
Okay.
One other question for Allison. When the Board of Selectmen writes up an article, do they get legal sign off from town council before they submit it to us?
Correct, yes. Yeah, everything is approved by town council, and then all the borrowing articles, the motions are approved by bond council.
The bond council. So in the situation of a citizen's petition, in this case, a committee petition, should that be signed off by town council? That
Yeah, that's
says,
a good question. I'm sure that they probably review it, but I'm not sure of the sign off. I
And
would
would
have
the-
to.
yeah, I'm not sure what the question is I'm asking.
I can certainly talk. I'll bring this all up to Tony tomorrow and we can, you know, I can have him start to talk to legal counsel about the options for this one.
Thank you, Allison. That'd be terrific.
Okay.
All right, so. So that takes us back here. So I guess we're still, we're ready to, I guess, dive into article number 24. I mean, the one point that I'll make before we get going is 24, 27, 28, 32, and 30, or actually, sorry, 32 and 33 are all ones we voted for. You know, they're the same article that we saw last year and we voted to recommend. So just, you know, as we kind of enter in the discussion relative to our vote, maybe have that in the back of your mind. Does that make sense? So then we'll start with 24.
What?
So this is the wastewater bylaw amendment that deals with the inflow and infiltration issues that I think were mandated to kind of put on the books to comply with the MWRA requirements. I don't remember who's on. Judy, you're on this one.
Right, and I recommended it. I mean, we always have, so.
Yeah.
I make a motion to, recommend.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Beatty, aye.
Brown eye.
Louis, I.
Anders Slice, aye.
Zahora, aye.
Charmy,
Fulgham.
aye.
Fulgham, aye. Okay,
Yeah,
one
aye.
down.
Sheehan, aye.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Dana. Okay, so we just had Tony's update with respect to Article 25, the new bylaw extending the distance for firearm discharge. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move that we recommend Article 25 on firearm discharge, the change, the amendment.
Roll call vote. Fulgham, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Brown eye.
Louis, I.
Anders Slice, aye.
Sheehan,
Charmy, aye.
Zahora,
Sheehan.
aye.
All right, unanimous in favor. Article 26. So this is a new bylaw dealing with snow removal on the sidewalks. I mean, Tony has kind of talked us through this. Do we have a motion or further discussion before we make the motion?
Does it come with a snow blower to take care of it?
Comes with global warming to take care of it, I guess.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
I'd like to discuss it. But I mean, we could discuss it after you get a second.
Oh, I'll second at least for discussion. No, I can't second it, can I?
No, you can.
Sure.
Good.
Okay, then I do.
Okay.
Yeah, the discussion part is, where's the part where it said, absent any mitigating circumstances, who is it that determines that there's mitigating circumstances? Oh, I see the waivers. I thank you for bringing that up. Waivers will be available for elderly, disabled, and others with special needs as promulgated by the Board of Selectmen. You know, how would we go about issuing waivers? And I mean, I think it becomes complicated.
Judy, could I add to that too? I mean, this kind of strikes me as a solution in search of a problem. As I walk around town, there's only a couple snowstorms a year where it seems like this might remotely be an issue. Neighbors take care of each other generally on this. I know that sounds kind of negative. I guess that's where I'm landing on it.
I agree too. Do we have a problem? And what brought it up? I mean, why?
There are a lot of sidewalks that don't get shoveled.
Yeah, there are.
I'm one who walks back and forth to work, and I walk primarily in the street when we've had a snowstorm.
All right,
Yeah.
but do you think it might be
For
the
20
properties where
years-
people are going to get mitigating circumstances anyway?
No.
No,
Oh.
for 20 years, I have shoveled the path that goes from my house all the way up to 40 steps.
Right.
And most of it's not my property.
Right.
So-
I mean, and who really owns the sidewalks? The town. So,
No, I don't think so. I think the property owner owns the sidewalks.
I think
It's
that's
their
probably, yeah.
responsibility to maintain them.
yeah, it's one interpretation. I mean, other towns I've been in, they have a little tractor that goes around and plows the snow off the sidewalks. I lived in Vermont for a while, and one day there was a snowstorm, 39 inches, and the
Yeah.
sidewalks were clear the
Well,
next morning.
We could put the Coast Guard housing proceeds to buy a little.
Oh yeah, then we need resource. I don't know. I'm mixed on this, guys. I also don't know that there's a problem. I think it's because in Little Nahant we don't have sidewalks, so it doesn't really anything that I see.
Yeah, I don't have sidewalks on my street
Yeah,
either.
that makes me either.
And
Right.
I don't have a sidewalk either.
Me either.
And then there's across the street, there's the Audubon Sanctuary. There is a sidewalk there. And I have no idea. I don't think they shovel that.
Right. It's yeah. Nope, that doesn't get shoveled, I don't think.
No.
Yeah, the one across from people's houses.
So it's unlikely that any of these issues that we've raised are going to be resolved in time to deal with making a recommendation. So do we just want to go ahead and make the vote? And if it's not to recommend, then we'll kind of explain if depending on what the vote is, we can explain the reason for the no recommendation in our statement, citing many of the points that have been raised.
Agreed.
We're gonna vote for no recommendation or?
Well, I
then-
made a
Up or
motion
down?
to recommend.
Yeah.
So do we vote on that? And if it doesn't pass?
Yes.
I already did.
Yeah, we have to vote on that for sure. So
Mhm.
let's see if it passes. I
All
might
right.
be the only one that thought that was kind of odd.
So is the discussion over? We're going to vote. Vote to recommend a roll call vote.
Lewis, no.
Brown, no.
Ian, no.
Vanderslice, yay, yes.
Yeah, Beatty, I.
Zahora, no.
Carmy, aye.
Foljam, no. Is that 4-4?
Shan, what was your vote?
Am I the decider?
Well, no, because well, yes, possibly.
Sheehan, no.
Okay, so it doesn't pass.
So we can either
That's
have
one,
have,
two.
we can either have a recommendation not to recommend, or we can
Mhm.
make no recommendation. I don't know what, I'm trying to think through what would be the strategy behind no recommendation.
And if we,
Oh,
if we choose to not recommend, what are the compelling reasons for not recommending?
Oh,
Too
What-
vague,
what-
no
what if-
enforcement. Too vague, actually, I think.
I mean, agreed. I think that's a good, I mean, difficult to enforce. Who determines mitigating circumstances, and how does someone go about getting a waiver?
I think the whole issue of who owns the sidewalk is kind of significant, because I bet in a lot of cases, it's not really clear who truly owns the sidewalk. You know, you're gonna start open a whole nother can of worms of, you know, citizens basically asking the town to prove, and maybe it would be a good process to kind of finally clarify ownership of certain spaces that are often either deemed private or public, and kind of settle it, but it's not going to be a, you know, a trouble-free or an expense-free exercise. And then you get into the point of all the people on the committee who have just said they don't have sidewalks in front of their house, you know, so then it kind of opens that can. Why don't I have a, you know, if we're going to start making laws about clearing sidewalks, who gets a sidewalk and why don't I have one? You know?
Well, now that we have to clear one, I'm not interested.
Right.
Yeah.
My street's too narrow. We can't do sidewalks.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it's all good reason. I understand why people are for it, and
Mhm.
I'm voting against it just because I feel like it's not that big of a problem, and it's gonna create enforcement issues.
Agreed.
So do we make a motion not to recommend or to make no recommendation?
I would
We just
prefer,
voted it down, didn't we?
I would prefer to do no recommendation, because there may be some people who feel, I mean, I see sidewalks are dangerous.
Didn't we just vote this down?
We voted down the
Recommend.
motion to
We voted
recommend.
to recommend.
Okay.
And now we're at level ground again.
Actually, I make a motion not to recommend. And I think that the reasoning, the most concise reasoning is because we don't see how it's enforceable.
How is it not?
What's your motion again?
It's pretty obvious whether someone shoveled their sidewalk or not.
Right, but how would we know if somebody shoveled their sidewalk got the waiver or had a mitigating circumstance? Or were too lazy to get out a shovel? I mean, how do you know?
I guess the police department would know, right? They'd know who had a
I
waiver.
think that, doesn't the article say it's the police department that's responsible for enforcement?
I
Yeah.
honestly think that our police department have more important things to do. Anyway,
Right.
I do have a motion not to recommend. Anybody want to second that? I mean, it's okay.
Second.
if You don't. Okay.
Was that Brown?
Brown seconds.
Well, there's a motion on the floor then not to recommend, and motion and a second. Do we vote on that, or
Yeah, I think we can either keep discussing or we vote on that. I think we should probably vote.
Mhm.
well, it's a horror aye.
Brown eye.
Sheehan, aye.
Vanderslice, no.
Beatty, no.
Oldham, aye.
Garmy, no.
Lewis, no.
Oh. And so now we're tied.
Oh, the joys of having an 8-member committee.
That's 4-4.
All right, well, then I think it goes through as a non-recommendation, and because the committee couldn't come to a decision. Or couldn't come to a consensus. That's better than a decision.
But that's different. Does that mean we just say we don't recommend, or it has to be more neutral if it's
We just
So
say that we offer no recommendation.
So
right?
do we have to then vote that?
No, I think by virtue of the fact we couldn't come to a consensus,
Is no recommendation?
it's a
Don't we have to vote on that, though?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Specifically, we have sidewalks where I live.
Mhm.
I've been told by, I believe, the people who plow the streets not to shovel the snow from my parking area into the street.
Correct.
And I would have to to clear my path, everything, I'd have to shovel everything into the street because there's no other place that you can put the snow. So I really, it would be, I couldn't shovel when I shovel the parking area in front of the garage, I pile it on the sidewalk beside the hedge. And it gets to be 8-10 feet because I don't put it in the road. I would be hard put to.
Bill, I have had the same problem. Well, how long have I lived there? 30 years or something like that. And there have been times where I have had to hire somebody with a truck to take the snow away because I don't have any place to put it, but I shovel my sidewalk. As well as all the way up the street to 40 steps.
You really have, well, the swimming makes muscles.
Apparently makes for a weak mind too. I don't know.
So where do we land? We just tied
Well,
up? I mean,
So
we
I'm
voted down the
thinking,
first
I think our recommendation is going to be no recommendation, and then
Yeah.
I guess we could explain
This is a-
why, and
Yeah.
also maybe explain the sequence of how we ended up at a 4-4 deadlock.
And whoever writes this, we ought to have some discussion of the public safety issue as well.
Right.
I mean, I think the town, I would venture to say that the town meeting's gonna not approve this, but I don't know, just a guess. My magic 8 ball is telling me that.
Okay, so
Well, I guess I'm the guy who's supposed to write it up.
How do you get all these good ones, Jeff?
Mhm. Yeah,
so we agree then that the recommendation is no recommendation.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. I think the next two were yours last session, Bob. I mean, it seemed relatively straightforward.
Yeah, I hope these are relatively straightforward.
Are we on 27 and 28?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing I can't remember what Tony told us, how is it collected? What's the mechanism? I thought it was kind of quote unquote automatic. It's automatic through the various web hosting companies that run these platforms, right?
Right,
Right.
right.
I'll double check, but that's my understanding.
well, this is
Yeah, it's
the,
not collected by the town. The town receives the money through the state.
Okay, so it magically just shows up.
Correct. Yeah, I
Okay.
think they do like monthly allocations.
Okay.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's good. That means we don't have to worry about,
Right, it's like the meals tax.
Right.
All right, well, I make a motion to accept, to
both of
recommend.
them. I do as well. I mean, I second it.
Further discussion? Roll call vote. Fulgham, aye.
ADI.
Louis, I.
Vanderslice, aye.
Brown eye.
And she and I.
Kari, aye.
Zahora, aye.
Thank you.
And then the sister article or brother article, however you want to term it,
I
is
will, you know, I'll put a motion that we recommend Article 28 on the short-term rental.
Second,
Fulgham, aye.
ADI.
Brown eye.
Louis, I.
She and I.
Vanderslice, aye.
Zahora, aye.
Kari, aye.
So we decided, did we decide that both 29 and 30 are, we make no recommendation, we defer to the planning committee, or maybe at least on Article 30?
I think we recommend to the planning committee. 29 looks to me as if is that something that the state already does and we simply accept the state's?
I would say so.
How does that?
It's a tax.
Yeah, it's accepting a mass general law.
Right,
Yeah.
All right, well, I make a motion to recommend.
and I second it.
Brown eye.
ADI.
Louis, I.
I'm sorry, is this on the tax?
It's on
Yeah.
29
Yes.
on the tax, yes.
I vote aye. She and I.
Zahora,
Fulgham.
aye.
Fulgham, aye.
Kari, aye. Did I hear Vanderslice?
Yes, aye.
Thank you.
And then our Article 30,
We have to wait for the planning board on that. That's
Well, we're deferring to the planning board, so we're
defer-
not gonna put
right,
anything at all.
exactly.
so that's a no recommendation.
That's a deferral, so I'll write that we defer to the planning board.
Thank you.
That's the same as a no recommendation though, right?
Right, I think we have to say no recommendation and then
Oh, okay.
defer to
And
planning.
explain why, that
Yeah.
it's not that we're opposed, it's that we're deferring, right?
You could have a no recommendation because you didn't have enough information, but we have a no recommendation because it's somebody else's purview.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So veterans tax. We voted this last time. I guess the mechanism, it's much like, I guess, the senior deferred
Yes.
tax work off.
I make a motion to recommend this.
I second.
Fulgham, aye.
ADI.
Vanderslice, aye.
Louis, I.
Zahora, aye.
Kari, aye. Dana,
Yes, let's see.
the veterans work off.
Right. So I'm sorry that I don't know about how many hours are they supposed to work to get this 1,500 off the tax?
I think it was a set, if I remember correctly, it was between 12, it was like around $15 an hour was the set rate. It was a
Right.
fixed rate, no matter what. So I guess it's,
Minimum wage?
100 hours.
Yeah, it kind of strikes me as a little low being a veteran, but I'm
Yeah,
hoping
no,
using it.
Yeah, it's
I
the
think-
same as the seniors.
I think it was, I I don't remember 100%, but I feel like that the rate is set by the Mass General statute. I agree, it's not enough, but
It isn't enough, I agree.
I don't think it's,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
something we can change.
1,500 is the highest that you're able to give through Mass General Law.
but also is the rate, in the law as well?
So the rate that they're technically earning, that depends the number of hours.
Correct.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can look through my files. I have some senior tax work-off files. Let me look maybe while you continue to discuss, and I'll.
Yeah.
I find it.
I had a feeling that Tony gave us $1 per hour rate,
Mm.
and he got that somewhere, and it seemed very low. So I don't know if that's a
It
master
might have been the
law
same
rule.
rate that they do for seniors.
Yeah.
Is.
Allison, is it used much?
For senior tax work-off this year, we had a handful. I think we had 7 individuals.
And how about the veterans?
So we don't have veterans
Well, this
because
has
this
been-
hasn't been implemented yet. So, but I don't know how many individuals it would be. That would be a Sheila question.
There's roughly 200 veterans in town.
Yeah.
So, I like the idea. I read about it a while ago, and the number of hours required to get that $1,500 seemed like a lot of hours to me, which made it somewhere near minimum wage. So I was like, are we really doing anybody a favor? But anyway,
$1,500 is $1,500.
yep, so it is.
Yeah,
And 100 hours is,
I'd like to have it off mine.
I know, and I certainly, to not recommend it almost seems like a slap to the,
I mean, that's, what does it work out to, 2 hours a week?
yeah, I mean, Bob, you make a good point. That's why I'm just
Right.
I'm in and hawing here. I'm the last one here, and I'm just gonna abstain. Sorry.
That's okay.
So, I mean,
Can we hear from Bill Brown, Bill?
Aye.
Yeah, Beatty, aye, although I think it'd be great if we could get the amount per hour up.
Mhm.
But I'll say aye.
I'm pretty
So-
sure it was 15.
I know I'd like to get that
Yep.
higher.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
But I'll vote for it
I'm
and
trying.
hope that next year we can get it up. Not the absolute amount, but what Dana's saying.
yep.
for the veteran work off.
Yeah, Barbara, it's I think it's up to the Massachusetts laws.
Yeah.
Oh, so we can't do that.
We
Okay.
can't increase the 1,500.
No,
We
not
just said
that. It's
Right.
how
I think
much,
the rate,
it's the rate.
Mhm.
it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's
Debbie-
both. We'll clarify that and put it in our language, I think for both of these, that we seem like we're in general agreement with the concept,
Right.
and, the state statutory limits are what they are, but we can also add color with respect to what we understand the hourly rate to be, and,
Hourly rate is
Make our-
$12.75.
say that again?
$12.75.
You're right.
Does it
It's
say
going
where
up,
that comes from?
it's going up to 1350.
Mass General
minimum.
Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5N. And all this is
Okay,
courtesy of Debbie, my research assistant.
okay, all right.
May I ask a question about, we have to, but on, how do you qualify to be a senior?
Your age.
As in,
I think I want to say it's 60, but it could be more, but I believe it's 60 here in town.
Yeah,
So-
there's actually a document on the assessor's webpage that I'm looking at now that lays that out. It is 60 and over. You're right that the wage is minimum wage. And it's a $480 minimum, $1,500 maximum for the exemption.
and what is it you have to do for that one? For the senior one?
That's the tax work off, the senior tax work off. So they work in a department within town.
So like you could work for the library or something?
Mm-hmm.
And then how much would you get off? You'd get
1,500.
Up to 1,500.
up to,
Mhm.
Mhm.
oh. Have we had that for all these years and I just didn't know it?
Well,
Yep.
we've
Had it for a couple years at least.
had it for a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we have a 102-year-old who's working in the assessor's office.
We are a tough town.
We are. We
She
are.
was not
She loves it.
102, is she?
What? She loves it. She's 102.
Sheila? Yeah.
No, not Sheila.
All right, now you're in trouble. That's how you're saying.
Not Sheila.
I could volunteer at the, well, not volunteer, but I could do something at the library.
You could shelve books for $12.75 an hour.
There
Yeah.
you go.
You could be a children's librarian.
No benefits.
There you go.
My
Yeah.
mother-in-law used to volunteer at the library, so it's a tradition.
So we're all the way through 31, right? We've finished the vote. Is that true?
Yeah, we did, yeah, and have we?
Yes, we
now
did.
we're on
1,
to-
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 7 ayes, 1 abstain.
Okay.
So now we're on 32, correct?
32, and 32 is the one that, we've heard from Tony that he thinks it's unnecessary, that the 4% rate is already fair in terms of the ranges that could be charged.
Mhm.
Sheila, this is from the assessor, so we wanted her to kind of explain why she thinks the 2.5% is justified. So I mean,
We can't vote on this one tonight, doesn't
No,
sound-
I agree.
yeah,
And then
okay.
I'd want to know how much revenue will we lose?
Right, we
right.
can't vote on that one tonight.
Okay, the way it worked last cycle is we made no recommendation because we didn't get the information in time. So
We could, okay. I
we're kind
mean,
of
that's what we-
trending on that path. But okay, Article 33. I don't know if Julie, we need to first wait on a recommendation from the town-owned land committee. Is that
Right.
true on both of
Right.
these?
Yep. So that's a no recommendation one
Okay,
because it has to go to the town-owned land study committee.
all right,
And that would happen on 34 as well.
okay. Okay. So we're at the tree bylaw. So I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look in the folder where I inserted, I can pull this stuff up. We went around on this quite a bit last cycle. Let me just see if hopefully I have it. Or I can. Okay.
John, this is Dana.
Yeah.
I've actually read that article, and
Yeah.
the way it was written last year, I was opposed to it, but
Yeah.
it seems like it's been cleaned up.
Yeah.
The committee gave itself unchecked power to write their own rules, and kind of that's been cleaned up.
Yeah.
It's
It
more of an
has been.
advisory committee.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to.
Well.
I'm trying to find.
Dana, I'm with you. I read the new version and it has been very much reflected our discussions.
And the main point. I was trying to pull up one document here. Okay, here it is.
But John, while you're doing that, I'll
Yeah,
just
you can
fill some
talk.
dead air here. But Barbara,
Yeah.
yeah, I would agree that that what I read in the last several weeks is keeps the DPW superintendent and the tree warden in the process.
Right.
And it also, the language takes out something last year was where this committee could make people take down trees on their own property. And I think that's gone now. Is that what you
Well,
saw?
It is on the books already that part of this is that if there is a diseased tree and someone on this committee notices it, like with the gypsy moth, they can report that to the tree warden or the DPW, and recommendations can be made to that private owner of that tree that they need to do something about the diseased tree. Otherwise, it could affect other trees.
Yeah. So this is a document from the Massachusetts DCR related to the Tree City designation and the concept in Massachusetts. And this was kind of the main point that Vi and the people who were pushing the bylaw initiative, it was basically tied to their desire to become a tree city. And there's four things that allow you to get that designation. You have to have a tree board or department, so that was what the formation of the committee, the bylaw forms the committee that satisfies this requirement. There's a tree warden, and now there's a volunteer tree board or committee to oversee the community's annual work and plan. And then we also we've been following, Zach says, the Mass General Law, Chapter 87, General Tree Care, Public Tree Care Ordinance. And this will just officially put that on the books, which, gives it a second check mark. And then the third requirement of spending, $2 per capita, Zach already says our tree budget is over that. So we do that. And then the fourth one, the selectmen will, ordain someday as a Arbor Day, or I don't know if it's a standard day within the country. So once we do those four things, then it opens us up to, having that designation, and then, potentially getting additional grants and funding. So that's all the background. And I agree. It seemed like the seemingly invasive elements that were present, not tree invasive, but overly invasive elements have been eliminated. So
I do want to ask a question about that,
Yep,
because, in a normal tree city, you don't need to worry about views, right?
yeah,
It's because the tree itself is a beautifier.
yeah,
But here we have to worry that the trees are going to grow in such a way it's going to obstruct someone's view.
yeah. So
What do we do
I
about
posed
that?
that question to Zach, and he said that the Massachusetts Chapter 87 tree bylaw does not deal with trees and views, and ours wouldn't either. He said that has to be dealt with in a deed restriction. So that has to be a deed restricted element. So there's really no, I understand your concern, but there's just practically, there's no way to address that in our own tree bylaw.
Right, but by having a tree bylaw and by not addressing it, that by having a tree bylaw is another problem, right? We're telling people to plant trees without consideration of when they're going to grow, that they're going to be a problem.
No, all we're doing is the things that were laid out that John just told us,
We're enabling
that we already
committee
do.
of people to have some input and paying some attention to where we put our public shade trees, right? So when the DPW gets a grant to plant, 30 elm trees, they get to then, I guess, go out and follow the bylaw and the guidelines to kind of work with the community to put them in the right place. And I would think that volunteer community would be tactful. There's no explicit statement, but I would think they would be tactful about where
Elm
they,
trees are a really good example because they plant 30 elm trees down the middle of, the main street. That's okay, kind
right,
of. But you plant them at the edges, we all lose our view. They grow big. And so people don't always understand that when you plant a little tree, it becomes, you don't see that
right.
15 years in the future, but it's going to be a problem. So I'm not in favor of this because I don't think it in any way protects us as well as it could. But I do think it opens up to a committee deciding whether or not I retain my view.
I am in favor of it. First, it sounds to me as if we are already meeting a lot of the requirements that are laid out to be a tree city. And I'm very much in favor for all the good ecological aspects of the ecological goods that it would bring. And I think the way it's now stated, there's a collaborative aspect to it that I think is, very positive. But I think it's really a very good idea, seeing as we're also already doing so much of it. I'd love to see this pass.
Seeing that we're already doing so much of it, why should we pass it?
Because then we get to be a tree city. And there's lots of good things that come with that. There's grants that we can get. It opens up a lot of other opportunities that are very positive for the town.
But Barbara, would you think that the new tree committee would do the work to apply for those grants? I would see that
Oh,
that
I would
would be
think
their
so.
primary mission.
Oh, no, yes, absolutely. I think that's part of why the new tree committee wants us to have this.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they know what this will open up.
Mhm.
You know how many dollars are involved?
I don't, because there's probably different grants for different types of things. But once you become a tree city, then you're eligible for lots of new possibilities. So I think this is a way of opening up a lot of good opportunities in terms of, both tree and air quality and all the other kinds of, it brings us a lot of it brings us into a community of tree carers. Probably it's even international. I don't know, but nationally.
Would it be okay to hug a tree?
Yeah, yeah, I'm not, I agree with you, Barbara. I think that there's many good benefits. I think it doesn't protect. I always worry when I'm worried. I'm worried because the view is tentative, right? And I have a neighbor's tree that blocks. I worry about that. I mean, they grow, trees grow. Nahant's a peninsula. Trees grow.
The people who are currently doing this, on a volunteer basis, they're going around, they're checking all of the public trees.
Yeah.
They also provided us with some free trees. They had a whole program. And when I chose a tree, they come to my property and they scope it out and they say, this is the best spot to do it. And they look at the whole surrounding area. So I think if there's, any question, these folks are really conscientious.
And they're knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Very.
And,
I mean,
and how about
I'm in
invasives?
favor of it.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this one too. And Julie, I'm going to ask you to fact check this, but my recollection is that there was a period in Nahant's history where all of the trees in town were completely cut down, and it took the
Yep.
town tens and tens of years to recover from that.
Exactly. We were just a pasture, and then we had Frederick Tudor, and then William Wood, who is the gentleman who created our town library. And he, with the fees charged to take a book out, those fees went toward planting trees in Nahant.
One question about it to the committee. What about invasives? I know over at Bailey's Hill, there are a lot of invasive trees and not nice looking trees. They're black locust trees. And is that something that the town tree committee would
I
deal
think,
with as well?
I've talked to Vi about the invasive Norway maple, which are also everywhere. So I mean, I think she's particularly attuned to that
Right.
kind of dynamic and, you know, what the solution is and how do you, how do you in a measured way plant new non-invasive trees and then get rid of the invasive ones. I think
Right.
That's my sense of,
Yeah.
also, we had a huge Norway maple that probably, I'm sure, blocked some views. And people are having to cut them down because they're very dangerous with the new winds that we're having.
Mhm.
These 50-mile-an-hour gusts, it's very dangerous to have a Norway maple.
Yep.
They have shallow roots. They grow very tall, very fast. They're dangerous trees. And we had a beautiful old one, but we had it taken down. And I think from talking with some of the tree companies that they're doing a lot of work in Nahant because of the winds are really putting a lot of, particularly those maples.
Oh, they're horrible.
Yeah.
They just break off branch by branch.
Yeah, they're dangerous trees.
Yep.
Would the tree bylaw address those kinds of issues?
But you could talk with them. I don't know. I'm not
I
saying.
don't think it
anything about-
specifically talks about
Right.
invasive or non-invasive.
No.
trees.
Right.
No, I was just saying that they can be very helpful.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, so I can't remember if we have I think we've just been discussing. I don't think there's any motion on the table or.
Oh, well,
Does
I'll
anyone-
move
No.
that we recommend it. The tree.
I'll second it.
Fulgham, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Brown, no.
Vanderslice, aye.
Zohora, no.
Mhm. Sheehan?
I keep going back and forth. I see both sides of it. I'm heartened that the language in this year's article or the supporting documentation is better, less intrusive. So I'm gonna vote aye.
Okay. And Lewis?
Pass.
All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 5 aye, 2 no, 1 abstain. So it passes.
Okay.
All right, so we're at 9:30 and if we're gonna meet on Thursday as well, I would propose maybe we put an end to the night. You
So
guys all right
moved.
with that?
That works for me.
Move to adjourn.
All right,
I
maybe
second the
a quick-
motion.
maybe a quick community input. Ken's been here. Kathy Martin's been here. Ken, do you have anything you want to chime in with?
Hi. Sorry, actually, I moved you on the other screen here. Just one question going way back here, just about going back to the recycling bins.
That was a year ago.
I know. Apart from the break-even analysis, which I share the question, which I guess Tony will come back with, has there been any discussion about residents who have already purchased their own large recycling bin of whatever size? There are a bunch of them around town. Some of them are like 80 and 90 bucks at Home Depot. So I'm just wondering if there's, I would expect they might want some kind of reimbursement or allowance.
That's a good question, and we'll ask Tony.
That's all for me. Thanks.
I don't think there's any other community voices that want to be heard, so motion to adjourn.
I think you've had a motion and a second already. We're
Okay.
up to the voting part.
Right, Zohor and Brown.
Fulgham, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Lewis, aye.
T and I.
Sahara, I.
Vanderslice, aye.
Tommy, I.
See you Thursday.
Thank you, Allison.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Barbara, before you go,
Oh,
you want me to send you that revised 23 or just,
yes, please do. But now I'm not sure. When-
I'm not either.
Well, other folks, you can bye. Good night. Jeff and I can just take a second here. Jeff, I don't understand where it was left.
That's a
Gonna
good
put-
question.
Are we going to put something into the,
Well, I think the vote doesn't
better?
change. There's an approval. It's, I just gotta get rid of the incendiary, shouldn't use incendiary, but the questionable,
but I
um,
thought the idea was that Tony explained to us that it was complicated what he explained.
which is probably a smart thing by saying we're gonna lose an audience if we move forward with the way it is right now. They're
Absolutely.
just gonna put this blank look across their face. So
Absolutely. That's what's
with
going to
that, I
happen.
agree.
And people are just going to, we don't need that at this meeting.
How about I take a stab and send you something and leave it there.
Okay, and I think John also said something that seemed helpful, that we could just, just a line or two in the introductory letter also saying that, this is something that we've been discussing. We are thinking, about ways to move forward. We need more information about various, I know it sounds very bureaucratic, but I mean, we still do need tonight was not a good night for Tony to be able to explain to us.
Oh, I feel so bad for the guy to go through a whole year of pandemic and then he gets it. Wow.
I know, and he's worked so hard for all of us. And his little boy has it too.
He's a cutie.
Adorable Rocco, and his wife is pregnant. Luckily, she doesn't have it, but
Yeah, knock on wood when you do that,
yeah.
huh?
But I mean, I just think this is not the meeting for us to put something that's going to cause people to be confused and worried and want to talk for a great deal of time about it. And what we're essentially saying is we're not going to make the change this year anyway.
Let
But
me edit it, send it off to you, and then the ball is in your court. You can, because then I send it up to John and Bob because they're the two co-chairs.
yes,
Okay, but
good. Thanks,
okay.
Jeff. Yeah, thanks a lot. Good
Good
night.
night now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.